Okay, it being 6 o'clock and a quorum being present, we'll call this meeting to order. Is Jeff with us?
He'll be joining us in executive.
Okay. All right, you have a copy of the agenda in front of you, and a copy of the minutes. On the consent agenda, we're gonna move the personnel items to executive session. Any questions over the consent agenda?
We're moving all personnel to executive.
All right, if there are no questions on the consent agenda, I'll receive a motion to approve it as second
Second.
by Adam. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, so administrative reports are to be heard next month?
Oh, yeah, well, I'll make a brief
Okay,
administrative
go right ahead.
report. They're all working on transitioning into their new positions. We have lots and lots of new leadership, and we're gonna have a retreat in early August to kind of get some goal setting and do some things like that. But right now, our administrators are taking their last breath before getting going in August. So they are working on transitioning into their new positions, though, and they'll have reports for you next month.
Okay. Okay, then go on to update on the summer project.
Yeah, if you drive by school, it's super busy right now. Lots of people working on various projects. HVAC is probably the biggest thing. You'll see lots of vans, and if you walk through the middle school, it's still a big mess. But I've been assured that it is progressing like they expected it to, and we'll have it done in time for school to start. So that's a big deal to have that done and have them put everything back to where it's going to be functional and working, and hopefully it's I'm sure it'll be hot when we start in late August, so we'll want that HVAC running for our middle school students. Our high school entryway is progressing really well. We're going to be waiting on a couple of things, the door primarily. The lead time on big secure doors right now is long, so we will be able to have that new entrance for them, but it won't be quite finished. But everybody will be able to shift to their new places, and so kids will be accustomed to that procedure once we get that door in and get that fully secure. And then the new central office is very near completion. Got a few extra things to do in that, but I'm over there now, and I think both high school and the central office will be operational by day one. So lots of stuff going on.
Are you moved in yet, Mandy?
Not yet. It's not quite done.
It's not quite done.
We still have a little ways
Yeah.
before we
Yeah.
move in.
I didn't catch, did you say the door would be done by school or not?
The door will not be done.
Will not be done.
By the start of school. But
Do
as
you
soon as
Do you have an
it,
idea on that?
it's probably gonna be a month or two into school once we get that. Once we get that in, I don't think it's a hard thing to set in and put up, but it's just a matter of getting it.
All students see in the mornings, everybody has to come through that one door,
Yes,
and they,
yeah, and then we'll have a separate entrance for visitors and parents now, where they'll talk to Miss Jenny in a secure area, and we won't have immediate access into the commons and the rest of the high school.
Okay, Zobson, you're up.
I'm gonna keep it brief this time. So the CAP program this year was not a lot different from years past. I served 50 students, happened to be a perfect 50-50 split, 25 middle schoolers and 25 elementary school students. As for next year, Miss Brower tested 39 students to see if they qualified this year, which is a drastic increase from years past. The most we'd ever had prior to this was 25 to start with, but this year we got lots of referrals along with our students that we tested because of our universal screener, the SAGES. So she tested 39 students, 28% of them qualified, so we identified 11 new gifted students. 6 of those were from the SAGES, the universal screener that we administer to first grade. So on the first grade level, we administer this test to every student in first grade. We do it throughout 1 week so that it's like, you know, it takes about 30 minutes per class period, and so at, 9 o'clock every day for a week, we go in and we administer this test to one of the classes. And we were able to, so out of that test, we pull the top students that they score within this range. And so we pulled 10 of them. There were 10 that qualified for further testing from that universal screener, and 6 out of 10 actually qualified for the program. So we were really satisfied with that result. We think that the universal screener that we're administering is worth the time and effort if 60% of the students went on to actually qualify for the program. So yeah, we'll hopefully see a little bit of an increase from that 50 number for next year. We don't always, because of course I lose my 8th graders, go on to high school, and then oftentimes the 7th and 8th grade age range tends to, I tend to kind of lose them to some of those other classes that are offered at that age group. And so, it is what it is. I'm hoping that I don't lose too many to other courses, but I don't know what those numbers are yet because I don't have my rosters. Let's see. So this year, the one thing that was different, we did, my 5th and 6th graders did Odyssey of the Mind. For the last couple of years, we've done Destination Imagination. They're basically the same contests, they're just different companies. And so they competed in Odyssey of the Mind. They placed first in their category. We were really excited to be able to go to Rolla and actually compete in person because they had built a structure from balsa wood, and in order to do it properly, it has to be weighed and measured. And so the head of that team invited us to come to Rolla so that it could be done with integrity. And they placed first. They received a trophy, and each of them got a medal, and so they were pretty pumped about that. They did a really good job. My 7th and 8th graders competed in National History Day this year. This was a completely new contest for our school and for our program. And we had several students actually go on to, they placed at our regional contest in Springfield, and they were able to compete in the state contest. And that information is all there too. They made documentaries, exhibits on trifolds, and we had a website made as well. So it was a worthwhile contest. It was free, so that was pretty cool as well. And the only really new thing I have to share is that if any of you are familiar with Senate Bill 681, which was the Missouri Omnibus Education Bill this year, was actually signed by the governor on July 1st. It was a big success for gifted education because it requires schools with 3% or more of their school population. If 3% or more of their school population is identified as gifted, the school is required to provide a gifted program to those students. And so we're ahead of the curve on that. So we've already got that box checked, so that's a good thing. I think that's it. Any questions?
Are schools required to identify gifted?
That's what I think, that's the loophole, I think, that, like the Gifted Association of Missouri is really excited about it, but I feel like schools that have never had a gifted program aren't going to probably I've only read the
Yeah.
summaries, so I'm not 100% certain, but the way it reads to me is if they have 3% or more identified gifted students, then they have to service them. If it's a school that's never had a gifted program, it's highly unlikely that
Right.
3% are already identified, unless it's an area where a lot of students, move around, or something like that, or they converge from different schools to come to one high school or something. Then I could see where they may have to create a program, but I feel like the schools that already have the programs are the ones that are going to keep them, and there probably won't be a lot of new programs created. The only thing is the schools that have maybe dropped their programs in recent years, they're gonna have those students that are already identified, so they may have to start theirs back up.
What's our percentage?
Say
You
that.
said you have to have 3%, what's ours?
3%,
You know?
3% or more. Ooh, that wasn't on my report this year, but
When was
ours,
it above 3?
but I believe last year it was around 8%.
Really?
Wow.
And that's not,
Yeah.
and that's not counting high school, is that 3%, are they talking about the complete student population? Or do you know?
I don't know.
You don't know?
That would be something that
That's
I'd
in
have
the
to
new
read
bid.
the full bill for, but
Okay.
yeah, in the summary it doesn't say that. But ours is well above
nice
3%.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
without.
It would still count high
That's,
school.
that's
Because
with
you've
or
already
without high
identified.
school, really, because
Okay, yeah.
once they're in high school, they're still identified, even though they're not being
Okay,
serviced.
right, okay.
Well, is that gonna require us to have a program in the high school?
No, the the way DESI lays it out is the AP courses qualify as
Okay,
enough.
okay. Yeah. How do we handle transfers that come in?
It's hard because oftentimes on the records, there's nothing noted
Right,
about them being gifted, so sometimes the parent has to come and say, hey, my student was in this gifted program, do you guys have that? And then we look into it, and a lot of times we have to call the school, find the counselor, find whoever might actually know what's going on. Sometimes it pans out, sometimes it doesn't, but anytime we have a transfer and a student was actually serviced in some type of gifted program, in-state or out-of-state, it's in our handbook, and we look at that and take their test scores and use them any way we can.
Uh-huh.
If they need additional testing to see if they qualify for our program, then we give that to them then. They don't have to wait for the next cycle, we'll
Right.
give that test to them immediately if needed.
okay.
Mr. Hobson did some quick math, 7%. Nice job.
Yeah,
Good work.
thanks.
We're very fortunate to have Mrs. Hobson in our CAT program. I think I've seen lots of benefits from that from our students, and I'm proud that we've maintained that throughout the years when a lot of other SCA schools and other schools in our area dropped theirs. Many years ago when budget constraints got tight, CAT oftentimes was the first one to go. And those are students that, just like your special needs students, your high achieving students need that help as well. A lot of times they really do need some extra help and some extra aid. So I'm really proud of our program.
Sometimes they don't like being stretched,
Right.
but they
Right.
need it.
Yeah, that's good.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie.
All right, thanks.
All right, we'll move on to bids for the children.
Bid is plural there, but it's just singular. We have one bid from Bulldog Pipe, entering a bid of $25,000. So you guys can elect to accept or decline that, and then we can open up that bidding process again at some point if you'd like to wait for a while.
Wasn't he offered 10 before?
I was gonna say, I was kind of
I
pleasantly
was too.
surprised by 25,000. I mean, the number that he.
Well, it was like 10 that somebody told him on the phone. wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
or something.
And what was
Yeah.
the new value, like?
It
50,
was 50,
but-
and it's
but
5
or 6 years old,
yeah.
something like that?
So, I mean,
I was shocked by
I was
that.
kind
I
of
mean,
surprised by it. I mean, I don't think, it seems reasonable to me. What do you think, Adam?
I'd be sitting out there and.
Collecting
not
dust,
collecting
yeah.
dust.
That's my thought.
And as it gets older and older and gets more dated, I feel like
But it's just,
We're gonna lose.
Yeah,
I'd
it's gonna
say,
continue to go down.
would that money go back into general funds? Get 25,000, where could
We
we?
could put it wherever we
Pay,
need it.
pay the interest
Yeah,
on the loan.
we could help, it could help with that,
I'd be
for
happy-
sure.
At least half
Yeah.
of that.
Definitely.
It's kind of.
We
not-
could knock
not
that,
free money,
knock a
but yeah, it
substantial
is.
money off the interest
Free
that we're
money.
paying for the HVAC project, sure.
I'm all for getting rid of it.
Okay.
I'm too.
All right, meal prices.
Okay, meal prices. That changed a little bit since last month. Talking with Regina, she's been working with Desi on that, and I'm gonna read it so I don't get it wrong. It was recommended that we increase our meal prices due to inflation and increase milk prices to stay within the reimbursable price range. That way the state can reimburse us and we're not losing money off of our lunches. So if we don't increase milk prices, we'll have a deficit, have to pay that with local revenue at the end of the year. Current meal price, $1.95 with a 25-cent milk, so that makes it $2.20 meal. We bring the meal price up a nickel, making the meal $2, increase milk from 25 to 40, total meal would be $2.40. So I would recommend the total 20-cent increase for the following school year. We try to make sure everybody can afford the meal and keep it as absolutely lowest as we can. But like everything else in the world, it has, things go up.
That's a pretty cheap meal.
Yeah, it's still's a bargain.
Every once in a while, not every day, I buy a meal from Conley's up there. And,
Not every day?
Not every day.
Okay.
But
That's
it's,
not me.
We were
it's,
shocked by
you
that.
know, they had to raise their prices, they gotta do their thing, I mean,
It's
everything's gone up.
The way of the world, unfortunately.
Did the teachers or adults who comes in, did that go up, or is that just on the kids?
That's just the kids portion. Yeah, the adults already pay more than.
I didn't know if that was
pay.
changing either.
Not that I'm aware of.
Any other questions on that? And going on to the plat.
Okay, so you have that in your, let me see if I can bring it up on the screen here, not that will make a huge difference. It's not in the back, is it? Not in the digital packet. Okay, it's in the last page on your hard copy. There's two pages actually in the back of the book. The first has got all kinds of fun numbers in it, and I'm sure you guys that are have more expertise in survey reading than I do can find that interesting, but the map shows it better, in my opinion, but pretty much what we thought on where those dividing lines come in, and what we'll do is we'll sit down. We have the YMCA, the city, and the school. We're gonna have a meeting next week. A couple of you are on that committee, and we'll talk about possible uses for the land, for the Y, how we can make that a win-win for everybody, and then I'll bring that information back to the board in the August meeting, and we can have a discussion about how you guys feel about that, and kind of what happened in that meeting. Like I said, a couple of you will be on that. I know Adam, you're on that, and Matt, so you guys will be able to fill everybody else in on what's said during that meeting, and hopefully we can make some progress on that. So that's just for informational purposes, and I don't think there's anything really groundbreaking there, other than we do have an official survey now, and it's been done, and now we can move forward with what we wanna do with that, what the Y wants to do, what the city, it's gonna take everybody kind of working.
Was this
in
survey,
harmony.
was this the one that the city did and we? went
We
in
paid half,
partnership?
yep, so,
Do you guys know that amount?
I don't right off the top of my head, no.
So there was nothing, I mean, no surprises or anything in the survey?
No, it was exactly what we thought it was, so. But it's been done now, so we can move forward with the next phase of whatever comes of the YMCA and the school and the city partnership there.
All right, then we'll move on to the review of the budget for this coming year.
Yeah.
I guess we're in it.
We are in the new fiscal year. We've done the final version. It was you know, we've kind of beat the budget to death the last couple meetings, so I'm not gonna put up the spreadsheet or anything like that, but we did finish with an unrestricted reserve balance for the FY 2020 or 22 year. Fund 1, just about a little over 3.2 million, and then Fund 4 is 1.9. So estimating our unrestricted reserve balance will be just under 25%, which is very healthy. Of course, that is shaded with all of that ESSER money, and we've talked about all that, so you guys know that, but that is a really strong number for now, knowing that will drop over the course of the next couple of years. So we want to keep that in the back of our mind when we're going through budgetary issues. But I would recommend that you approve the final FY 23 budget with those numbers in place. Jamie was able to finalize, close everything out, and just kind of a dot the I and cross the T point for you guys to go ahead and approve that.
And then we have some student activity accounts that we will be talking about writing off.
Yeah, this is the board meeting where we ask that you write off some accounts for some of our student activities. Athletics is the big one, and that's every year write-off. Middle school athletics at just over $3,000, and high school athletics at just over $9,000. That high school one is the big one, and it always is. And at some point, you know, you may want to look at increasing the budget for our athletic programs, but it is consistently year after year in the deficit, and that's unfortunately the nature of athletics. We have some athletic programs that just it's a high cost, low return as far as finances go for the school. Of course, that's not why we're doing it. We're doing it for kids, but it is a costly thing to get into. The AD knows about that.
The question I have, what it used to be, we had an activity account which was separate from our budget, so I'm kind of mixed up while looking at this. It used to be where you put your gate money, that's where you paid your officials, and that was the account that was always negative. But then the budget figure that you got, this is how much money you have for equipment and so forth.
Right.
That was always, you had to keep that at zero. So is this a combination, or I don't,
I'll have to check on that, Coach. I'm not sure unless
That's a
Mandy
Jamie
knows.
question.
Yeah.
because I think it
I'll find
changed.
out for you.
I think it changed since,
Yeah.
but I don't know how but that was that always went negative like this because of your gate receipts and your officials.
Right, it doesn't add up
And your officials
to-
pay.
right.
And everything's been shooting up, so.
Yeah.
Are these numbers in line with what they've kind of
In the
been in the
past.
past as far as for each
Unfortunately, yeah.
middle school, high school?
The athletic ones, and then we always seem to have a couple of clubs that just get in the hole for whatever reason. FBLA is a little bit in the hole, although I know they're working on fundraising in the fall to try to get out of that hole. Of course, if you guys zero it out, then they'll add to their balance. And then student council, that kind of falls into the athletic portion. I don't know, Adam, with the burgers and the things they try to do to raise money, we just they weren't able to get the money to quite even out their account.
Student council you're referring to?
Student council.
I will say, being on the board for a few years, that this seems like to me that it's overall.
It's much better than it
less
was.
Because I know we had, with the prom there, 1 or 2 years was really,
Yeah.
and they've really done a good job. Of course, COVID may have helped that when they didn't
Well,
have prom.
it was
I don't
even
know.
before then, our advisors and really overall, our teachers and advisors work really hard to
Right.
keep that at a zero. And most of these things are just, unforeseen things that happen in the course of a year. So.
I've got a question on
Sure.
the comment you made, and Coach, maybe you can help on this. You talked about increasing the budget for the athletics there.
Mhm.
Is it 6 of one and half a dozen of another, or is there an advantage to changing something? I mean,
Well, the only advantage would be you don't have this discussion in July. They can keep it at that, where it needs to be. They just don't, athletics does not have the money
right
in their budget to
But
zero out.
We're paying it either way.
But you're paying it either way, correct?
So would we, just to walk down that path just for a second there, would we say increase the high school budget by 10,000 and the middle school budget by 4,000, and then would we hold them to that mark then at that point, or is there
Yeah.
fluctuations to that?
There's fluctuations in a given year, but I think that would be
Well,
a pretty safe assumption to say you need to keep it in the black
But
if,
the-
if we're raising it.
But there are variables you can't control,
Sure.
like the number of home games you have,
Yes.
what your gate is, and then, like I said, your officials thing, their pay keeps going up, their mileage goes up, so you're always gonna, it's always gonna vary a little bit from year to year on what your income's gonna be, and your,
Is
out of that.
Is each athletic department like itemized an amount of money per year, or is this is so much goes to athletics?
Well, that's what, budget wise?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, does attendance, yeah, you just,
Each one of them have their own.
yeah.
It's not an umbrella.
But this shows you all.
Yeah, all of them combined, yeah.
well, I think it'd be good if, just for our information, if you could provide us that.
Sure.
Because I'm thinking, kind of like the way it used to be was football had a budget, and they were asked to stay within that budget, you know, as close as possible. But that didn't include officials, right?
Oh,
Uh,
we really didn't have every year where we said football's got this much, basketball's, because we're on a uniform rotation.
Yeah.
So one year,
Yeah.
one sport might have to spend a lot more money than the other
Oh, I
sport,
see.
so
Yeah.
we never really, you
You
just.
didn't have it itemized out for
No.
sport?
Well, you knew how much
Oh, I
each
see.
one spent, but you didn't begin the year and say, okay, coach,
You've got-
football,
You got X
we got
amount of money.
$10,000, because there again, football equipment, it's gone sky high
That's
with the
insane.
helmets and
Sure.
the shoulder
Yeah.
pads, and then you're reconditioning every
Right,
year, you have to
yeah.
do that costs you, so you just never know. So football's always a lot higher, of course, but we didn't just give each sport a certain amount of money. What do you need, you know, and we go into it that way. And if there was a high ticket item, then we might have to discuss whether or not we could afford that, you know.
But
Would it
the
give our
officials-
coaches some wiggle room though, if we did say, and to your point, that, you know, if there's uniform or maybe some big purchases that every 5 years or whatever that looks like, but to where you say, hey, coach, you got X amount of dollars this year, and they can kind of, rather than going, I hope that we can, you know, get forgiven of this at the end of the year.
Yeah.
They can make up a lot of this if they just run concession stands. Instead, I'm not against paying teachers that wanna do it, but if there's kids that's come in and run concession stands to make up some of that difference. You know, at every home basketball game, we pay teachers.
Well, but concessions go to the specific program and
Right,
not
but-
Yeah, that's
necessarily
not a-
athletics in
But I
general.
would think there's opportunity there for kids to, or.
That could help a little
deals to-
bit, sure. I think a bunch of, I mean, I need to talk with our athletic director to see where the bulk of that has come from, but, you know, football equipment is really, really expensive.
And there's a lot of them.
Yes, you know, helmets are insane right now,
They're
so.
in- they're in
Not
50
to
piece.
maybe commercialize our football field by any means, but you go around to other places and there's an abundance of signage.
Sponsorship?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, I mean, obviously, it's no mystery that the football program obviously spends probably considerably more money than other places. And not that you maybe wanna do that in the gym or other places, I don't know, cause we have a lot of other banners and things in there. But maybe something to consider around the football, even if it's on the outside.
Mountain Grove Gymnasium, whenever the boys were playing basketball up there, they had 5 banks represented in that gym. When you looked around that.
Yeah.
that-
Yeah, well,
that-
that was,
And I don't
that
know
was
that-
building the gym, I think, is what that,
Sure.
what their, I don't know, I'm not real big on wanting to commercialize unless you just have to myself.
Sure.
And I think that as far as football goes, I mean, who's got a better booster bunch than the football program? And if they need something, they usually can find a way to get it.
Sure.
You know, I think the whole discussion, what I'm talking about here is just, you know, it used to be separate. You had a budget, you had a $30,000 or $35,000, whatever it was for your athletic budget, and that's what you spent on your equipment. That was for everything on your equipment, and then the officials and the gate pay was a separate fund.
Yeah.
Okay, completely, and that's the one that was always running the negative balance. Right?
Okay.
Now, but I'm thinking that maybe it changed this in because we didn't even have it high school and middle school separated. We just had a budget that the athletic director was in charge of.
Right.
But
And
you weren't
went from
running
there.
a $9,000 deficit.
I might have been in that one account where the officials and the gate pay was
So,
going. That would be the only one.
We
That
pay,
would
we
be-
pay, we're paying $9,000 in officials a year?
Oh, I'd
Probably
probably say
more.
more than that,
I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Umpires, I mean,
Yeah.
I know we're kinda stuck on football and stuff, but money, all the money that was raised for Booster on that football deal, did that offset everything football had? Is
That
that,
was-
was that geared toward?
That's totally
That's
separate.
extra.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
yeah,
that's totally
That's
separate
not
deal.
equipment or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's
That's-
just at
that's
their
not-
discretion,
Yeah.
extra stuff
Yeah.
that they want.
And, yeah.
Because we're gonna take care of the equipment and the
Right,
things you
but-
need to play
But
football.
nothing here is out of any.
Out of sorts.
yeah,
No.
Yeah, it's not way out of line
Yeah.
with
No,
where
I
it
don't
has
say
been.
This
that.
happens yearly.
I didn't mean to
Sure.
open up a can of worms.
Hey,
You
way to
just-
go,
You
man.
just, you said we could increase their budget, I was trying to find.
I'm just
if
thinking
there was
our
an-
athletic director needs to be at the next meeting.
If there- I absolutely agree, maybe every meeting.
Maybe, yeah, that's a good
I
idea.
think so.
But it's not out, it is.
Let's make a
It's not out of
It's
line.
not out of line. And the actual extracurricular clubs are actually better than normal, so.
Okay, I think this is digressed.
Moving right along.
Move on to comments from our guests.
Andrew?
The cookies was good.
All right, then moving into items for action, are we ready? All right, then on the budget, I would receive a motion to approve the FY, is it 22 or 23?
Should be 23.
23 budget as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The sale of the chiller, motion would be in order to approve the bid from Bulldog Pipe in the amount of $25,000 for the sale of a 90-ton air-cooled scroll chiller.
And that's with them removing it, correct? They're,
That's correct, I believe. That was part of the agreement. I don't see that on the bid, but I believe
Oh, I
that
thought
was
it was
part of
already.
it.
Yeah, I thought they already took it out.
Yeah, isn't it just sitting?
It's sitting in the
At the bus barn.
bus barn.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll come get it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not delivered.
No.
They will
Yeah.
do it.
Marty, you never did weigh in on that, or is that the direction?
That would be my recommendation, yeah.
Anybody want to make the motion?
I'll move the motion, sorry.
Scott,
second.
Brent, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, setting of, the meal prices, do we need to officially change those? Need
Yeah,
action?
I agree,
Yeah.
so. yeah.
Okay, so I would, receive a motion to set the meal prices as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And as every year, we need to have a tax levy hearing. We're required by law to do this, and we usually set it for about 10 minutes before the meeting in August. So I would take a motion to set the tax levy hearing for August the 8th at 5:50 PM.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Brent and Scott.
Ooh.
Was that,
I see what's going on here.
was that?
We
was
said
that-
it at the same
It's at
time.
the same time, so.
Oh, yeah. Give the senior down there credit for it. All right, a motion be in order to write off the negative balances in the accounts that were mentioned.
So moved.
Second.
Matt and Jeff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And finally, we need to set the date and time for the board meeting concerning board superintendent relations, which would be a week from tonight, 5 o'clock. So I would take an order, or a motion to set the special board meeting for Monday, July 25th at 5 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
That was Matt. Yeah.
You guys all sound alike.
Okay, then we are now ready to move into executive session. I need a motion to move into executive.
So moved.
Matt,
Second.
second by Jeff. We'll do a roll call.
Aye.
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 And aye. we're now back in regular session. Due to the late date of resignation, I would receive a motion to decline the resignation of Tracy Cottingham.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, due to the late date of resignation by Jewel Holloway, I would receive a motion to decline Jewel Holloway's resignation.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, now I would receive a motion to accept the resignations of Anna Krivichenko as a paraprofessional and Stacy Darnell as middle school secretary.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Who had the first one? The second?
Matt.
Okay, I would receive a motion on our new hires to Burr and Jess Wilson as special ed teacher, Jerry Miller as elementary SRO and assistant high school baseball coach, Maxim Karatanov as full-time sub as teacher of record in the middle school, Christy Osborne as full-time sub as teacher of record in the elementary, Erica Rogers as paraprofessional, Irina Kulabach as paraprofessional,
Dana Reese is a scratch on that list.
scratch,
No, I'll go.
Mike Caskey as custodian, Christy Starbuck as cook, and Sherry Bowles as cook. I'd receive a motion to accept those hires.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, now, I would receive a motion to make the following transfers. Rachel Martin, fourth grade to elementary school special ed. Tanya Spencer, middle school special education to middle school keyboarding. And Amy Pollard, part-time special education teacher and part-time process coordinator.
So
And
moved.
Gayla Chafin, from elementary aide to elementary secretary.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? I would receive a motion to adjourn regular session.
So moved.
Aye. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?